Welcome to Down the Right Field Line with Marlins Nation. Marlins head back home after a strong road trip. Let's see if they get things going. And what kind of performance does JJ give on his home start? All that and more coming up next. Welcome to Down the Right Field Line, now with Marlins Nation. If you want to fast forward to any of the segments, you can do so by clicking on any of the links. After the Marlins finished with an 8-1 road trip, they head back for a quick 5-game homestand against the Mets and Pirates. In Game 1 of the Mets series, Mark Buehrle faced Johan Santana. Santana normally has great success against the Marlins, but in the first inning, right off the bat, the Marlins scored 3 runs, including a 2-run shot by Austin Kearns. In the 7th, the Mets cut the lead to 3-2, and then eventually tied it and took the lead in the 8th inning off a double from Mike Baxter. In the bottom of the 8th, the Marlins cut the lead by 1 on an Omar Infante RBI double after Reyes reached first base on an error by Ike Davis. Heath Bell then came out with a shutout inning in the 9th inning. And then in the bottom of the 9th, Greg Dobbs comes up with a big pinch hit, RBI walk-off hit to take the game 6-5. In 6 2/3 innings, Buehrle allowed 2 runs on 8 hits, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts, but the bullpen could not hold his lead and eventually blew the save, and Bell came up with the win. Rob, what impressed you most about this game in particular?
Well, there was a lot of tidbits in this game, one of them being that this was the Mets' 8,000th game. But the biggest thing is that you just saw the guys and they kept fighting. And, even though, it was the bullpen faltered again, you still kind of saw that they kept battling. And after this game, the Marlins had won 9 out of their last 10. They were just consistently battling every single inning. This was the 4th walk-off hit out of the 12 games that the Marlins have played in Marlins Park. And, we go back to talking about home field advantage and how big is home field advantage now where the Marlins can walk off and create that excitement. So, they just kept battling, kept the crowd in the game, and that Bell scoreless inning was obviously really important. But it just ended up being a great win and it created a lot of energy going to Game 2.
So Game 2 of the series was on the Big Fox, also known as the Ricky Dickey game. Ricky looking to become the Marlins' all-time winning pitcher in Marlins history. Things decided to go in a different direction. Ricky didn't have his stuff. In 4 2/3 innings, Ricky allowed 6 runs. R.A. Dickey allowing just 2 runs in 6 innings. This was all Mets. The Marlins really, the way Dickey pitched, he didn't strike anybody out. I believe the Marlins just didn't show up. And it's one of those games where Ricky just didn't have his stuff. And is there anything else, Rob, that you could tell us about this game?
Well, the Mets are going to go wherever David Wright takes them. And in this game, David Wright went 4 for 6. He hit a home run opposite field, that's David Wright's game. He can play against anybody. Ricky wasn't on this game. And with Ricky, he's had a good start of the season, but you knew eventually he was going to hit one of those rough patches, and this was one of them. He was really wild, which kind of concerned me because he was, during the beginning of the season, he was so consistent with attacking the strike zone. And in this game, he was all over the place. And like you mentioned, Rafi, this was on Big Fox, nationally televised. And you don't know if that might have affected him, but he didn't look good. And the roof was closed for this game, but there was a lot of offense on the Mets side. Tough loss because the Marlins had been playing so good up to this point. that you said, well, if the Marlins go in and sweep the Mets, this is going to be a huge deal. They immediately set their focus on Game 3 to try to, at least win the series. Because again, we always talk about this. You win series throughout the season, eventually you're going to be able to make it to the playoffs.
Well, now moving on to the rubber matchup on Mother's Day, where you had Carlos Zambrano versus Jonathan Neese. This was all pitching as the game was scoreless until the 4th inning when the Mets scored 2 runs. The Marlins got things going in the 7th inning on a leadoff triple by Bonifacio and then a 2-run shot by John Buck. Heath Bell comes in to keep the game tied in the 9th, and he couldn't do it. He loads the bases up and allows a 2-run double to Justin Turner, who screwed him over in New York a few weeks ago. You still think you have a shot. By the way, I was at that game. First game back from New York. Bonifacio again leads off with a triple. Then Buck draws a walk. Brett Hayes pinch runs. Dobbs comes up with a pinch hit single. This guy's money. So it cuts the lead down to 4-3. Things keep going for the better as Jose Reyes hits a sac fly, bringing in Brett Hayes. So now you got 1 on, 2 outs. Ramirez draws, I think, the most important walk of the season thus far. The Mets closer, Frank Francisco, is, I think, distraught and upset. So he hits Austin Curtis with a pitch. I think it just got away from him, but I think he was already frustrated with the calls from the home plate umpire. He gets ejected. Terry Collins comes and grabs him to take him out to bring in Manny Acosta to face Giancarlo Stanton. Man, if there was ever a time to swing at the first pitch, it was at that moment. And big boy Giancarlo Stanton hits it out for a walk-off grand slam. Man, this was probably the most exciting game of the season. Maybe I'm biased because I was there, but what were you feeling, Robert, as you watched that game on TV?
I was literally jumping up and down. I mean, I feel bad for my neighbors. It was really an exciting game. Again, just like the other game, game 1 I was talking about, they just kept battling. Frank Francisco, you saw from the first pitch of the inning that he didn't have his stuff, and he was a little bit wild early on. But the key here is you hit to what the pitcher's giving you, and if you see he's wild, you're going to let him get into trouble. That's exactly what they did. Now, there were a few key hits that happened on the first pitch, but a lot of them you just let it develop. Now, the Austin Kearns hit by pitch, that's a situation where, obviously he's not going to want to get hit. That's a very important hit by pitch. And then Stanton, they asked him after the game, they said, what are you looking for in that situation? And he said, well, the guy before me just got hit by a pitch. I'm looking dead fastball right down the middle, and he deposited in left field. And that's exactly what he was. He was aggressive, first pitch down the middle, home run. So I really liked what I saw out of him, and over the Marlins overall, just battling.
So moving on to the quick 2-game set against the Pittsburg Pirates. Game 1 featured Anibal Sanchez versus Lincoln. This game was not in the way of offense, as in the first inning, McCutchen comes up with a sac fly to take a 1-0 lead. Hanley then responds with a solo shot, and I mean a bomb, to tie things up at 1. In the second inning, Rod Barajas hits a solo shot to take a 2-1 lead. And then the Marlins tie things up at 2 with an RBI single by Bonifacio. And then in the 8th inning, Reyes reaches base. Hanley gets on base as well, both on singles. Runners at the corners. The Marlins couldn't do anything about it. Lomo strikes out and Stanton pops up to second. Marlins get nothing out of that. And then in the bottom of the 9th, Joel Hanrahan got the job done for the Pirates. 1, 2, 3, and that's all she wrote for that game. Well, game 2, you had JJ versus Kevin Correa. JJ coming off of a strong start versus Houston will now try and see if he can get things done here against the Pirates. Didn't disappoint at all. JJ pitched in 7 innings, allowed 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, walked 1, and struck out 6 for his first win since April of 2011. The Marlins got things going big time in the 4th inning, scoring 5 runs. You had John Buck coming in the clutch with, we were thinking, oh, Buck is up, and we got the pitcher on deck, and And he did. He came up with the clutch on an RBI single. He had Infante, who always comes in through the clutch, drive in another run. And then Hanley coming in huge, hits a deep fly ball to right field. And it hits the wall. It could have gotten out. It just barely missed it. And scores Reyes, and then Infante was thrown out at home. You know, I don't know if that was the right move to send Infante on that play. It looked like he was out by a mile. And if he goes for a dive, that would have been extremely dangerous, I would have thought. But in any event, the Marlins win 6-2. And Rob, do you agree with sending Infante on that play?
Yeah, it was one of those plays where you saw it developing, and you know, when you're watching things on TV, Rafi, I know you were at the game. You know, when you're watching things, you're just like, send him, send him, send him, send him. We got to score, we got to score, we got to score. And in that inning, we were just scoring and scoring and scoring. You're like, you know, just send the guy. Situation, you already have a huge lead. You know, you're expecting that the only way Infante's out is if there's a perfect throw, which there was, and Infante was out. But in that situation, that run is kind of like an add-on run, but you want to put the pressure on the other team to make that big play. And they ended up making it, so I wasn't too concerned about that. And, you know, we've talked about JJ, the starts, that he does have a good start. He's just attacking the strike zone. That's what he did in this game. He's had a lot of success against the Pirates. In 3 starts, he's 2-0 with a 1.64 ERA going into this game. So you already knew he was going to be aggressive, and that's exactly what he did. And, you know, he won the game for us, and that was a much-needed win because you didn't want to end the homestand after coming out of that 8-1 road trip. You don't want to come home and then drop 3 out of 5. So it was a great win. They end the homestand on a 3-2 record. Now going on to a road trip. So, you know, happy flight, kind of like the Cardinals did last year. Happy flight. Well, like we mentioned in the last show, we're going to be accepting video questions or comments from you guys, the fans, at any point throughout the week. This week, since we had kind of a short week between when we posted the last video to when we're filming this video, we didn't have any submissions just as of yet. Make sure to film, you know, a short question of you, you know, introduce yourself and just tell us a question you may have about the Marlins or just baseball in general, and just, you know, tweet it to us at Down the Right Field Line, or just post it on our Facebook, which would probably be the easiest thing. And we'll choose one every week and we'll talk about it in our show. So since we don't have one this week, Rafi, I want to throw this out to you and see what you think about this. In the game on Tuesday, there was a play between the Brewers and the Mets where Ryan Braun got hit by a pitch. And the Mets manager Collins thought that Wright might get hit by a pitch later on in the game, kind of as retaliation. The game was pretty much over. Collins pulls Wright out of the game just because he was fearing that he was going to get injured, and then Wright just exploded on him in the dugout. Rafi, what are your thoughts of this situation, and do you think he should have been taken out? And then, you know, what about his reaction in the dugout?
Well, in that situation, you know, I agree with Terry Collins to a degree. You don't, in a blowout game, you don't want your best hitter to get hit, and you don't know where he's going to get hit by a pitch. Ryan Braun got hit in the back area. I mean, the Brewers are up. If they have a runner on base, it doesn't matter. So who knows where they go after Wright. And as far as Wright's reaction to it, you know, it's the heat of the moment. He says, he was telling his manager, Terry Collins, you know, if anyone's going to get hit, put it on me. And you could tell what type of leader David Wright is. I understand Wright's reaction, and I understand Terry Collins' decision, but I think the most important thing here is that both guys were able to talk about it. It looked really bad in the dugout, but I think after the game, things just calmed down, and you know, it's just one of those things that happens, but I think it was the right move by Terry Collins and a justified reaction by David Wright. Well, that wraps it up for this episode. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Tweet us your questions so we can put them out there and answer them for you. Also, follow Marlins Nation And you can do that by visiting their website at MiamiMarlinsNation.com. From all of us here at Down the Right Field Line, we'll leave you with our random video of the week, which we like to call
the Major Freakouts.
Later.